Good morning, Cedar Park, and welcome to a special edition of the Wolfcast. As Hispanic Heritage Month comes to an end, we will be joined by three women for a Q&A panel, including Stephanie Vergara, singer of the Selena cover band Bitty Bitty Banda, plus CPHS counselor Annette Hansen, and KVU morning anchor Yvonne Nava. Stay tuned because the Wolfcast starts now. Good morning, Cedar Park. I'm Risa Elizondo, and I'll be moderating our Hispanic Heritage Month panel in this special edition of the Wolfcast. Please help me in welcoming our panelists as I introduce them. First up is Miss Stephanie Vergara. Miss Vergara is an Austin native who works as the programming and event manager at Austin's Waterloo Greenway, and since 2014, she has been the lead singer for the Selena cover band Bitty Bitty Banda. Since 2015, she's also an advocate for the Hispanic community and the city's Latin music scene. Next up is Miss Annette Hansen. Miss Hansen is a longtime public school counselor, most recently starting her first year at CPHS this year. Previously, she served as lead counselor at Flukerville High School. Students who have already met Miss Hansen say they appreciate her kindness, advice, and genuine care. Finally, joining us is Miss Yvonne Nava. For more than a decade, Miss Nava is the anchor of KVU's Morning News Daybreak.
For night 2 of our KVU News special presentation, Racial Equality, Building a Better Austin. I'm Yvonne Nava.
She is also a native of Laredo, Texas, and began reporting for her local Telemundo station when she was just 18, eventually graduating from UT Austin. During her senior year at UT, she was recognized by Hispanic Magazine for being an outstanding role model for Latinas. Thank you all so much for being here this morning and celebrating Hispanic Heritage Month with us by sharing your voices and experiences.
Yay, great to be here. Thank you.
So first we start off, how are y'all doing today?
Good.
Doing
great.
Thanks for inviting us.
Yeah.
So my first question is, beyond the introduction I gave, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about yourselves, what you do, or why you wanted to join us for our panel this morning?
So I am as mentioned in the prompter, I'm born and raised Austin. I am so proud to be from Austin. I'm a musician, so naturally, in the industry, you are encouraged to go to New York or LA, or with the genre that I work in, even Nashville. But I have a 5-year-old little boy, and as soon as I had him, I knew that I wanted to live the rest of my life in Austin with my family. I am a single mom, so I do it by myself. I couldn't do it without them. Just that I'm super, super proud to be from Austin, and this is going to be home forever, I think. So.
And I really was excited to receive this invitation from the Wolfcast team and Mr. Garcia. It's my first year at Cedar Park High School, and I feel like this is an opportunity for me to meet more students and for students to get to meet me. It's really important for me to be part of our school community, and so I thought this would be a great opportunity to do that. And as far with Hispanic Heritage Month, it's really important to me being from a multicultural family and raising multicultural kids. I have kids that are our audience's age. I have teenagers also, and it's important for me to teach them the importance of respecting their culture and stuff and learning about their culture.
That's a good point. I'm happy to be here. I know how impressionable I was when I was your age, so it's just kind of important to me that I kind of pay it forward and kind of let you all know kind of what we've been through as far as just being Latinas in our different industries, and just the struggles, the triumphs, and how important and proud I am to be Latina as a journalist, and everything and all the little, I guess I would say, the missteps and the heartache has just kind of gotten me to this point. And that's what life is about, right? Not everything's perfect, and things can be a little bit difficult and a little bit dicey sometimes, but it makes you stronger for sure.
Now, Hispanic Heritage Month is celebrated and honored in a variety of ways. What are ways you think are important to recognize this month?
I think it's really important to recognize leaders. Growing up, I didn't see a lot of people that looked like me, whether Latina, Latino. I don't speak Spanish, but I definitely didn't see people speaking Spanish, in movies or TV or in politics or in literature. I was a voracious reader, and none of the characters ever looked like me or my family. And so I think it's really important during this month, and not just this month, but throughout the year, to highlight that everyone, we all look different, and we all represent different families and cultures and heritages, and in pop culture, but also, in things that are in our everyday life as well.
Representation does matter. I remember going to college here at UT, and I looked around and none of the anchors looked like me. They all were blonde hair and blue eyes, and I just thought, oh, okay. And it was, how dumb of me, but at that point I was like, oh, okay, I guess I just won't be able to work in Austin. And I was just like resigned to the fact that I would never work in Austin. And then I kind of moved around with the job, and then after a while I was thinking, why can't I work in Austin? I don't understand. Now we have more diversity in our newsrooms, but it is important to see someone that looks like you. Even when I was a kid, I remember not liking to play with Barbies because they didn't look like me. But then I got a Spanish Barbie, and ooh, it was over. I was so excited because she looked like me. She had brown eyes, brown hair, and it sounds silly, but it does matter. It really does.
I remember when I got my first brown hair Barbie too.
I was like,
Teresa was her name. Teresa's a brown hair Barbie. Yes, same. I think that it's important to remember that it's important to celebrate Latino voices all year long. This is a great opportunity to elevate and advocate for stepping up the game to celebrate the Latino culture as a whole. So,
it should be something that it's recognized all year long, not just during this one month.
for sure.
When you're reflecting on your upbringing or your childhood, what were you taught about being Hispanic or in America, and who or where did you learn this from?
This is when I was reading the questions. This was the one that kind of gave me pause. So I am on my mother's side, 2nd generation Texan. On my dad's side, I'm an 8th generation Texan. My great grandfathers fought in the Battle of the Alamo on the Texas side and survived. He's one of 28 survivors. My grandmother on my mother's side is from Guadalajara, Jalisco, Mexico. Very different upbringings. My dad and mom both grew up speaking Spanish. We were just talking about this right before the camera started rolling. All 4 of my grandparents, 3 of them were migrant workers. One of them also worked in the fields. Thinking about the impact that my family had on the American economy, down to putting food on tables and clothes on people's backs. My mom's parents did cotton picking. My dad's parents did strawberries and watermelon. Thinking about the physical work that they did to get me to this point, and their mindset of I just got to make a better life for my kids, got to make a better life for my grandkids. Thinking about that is very heavy for me. And when I think about I get to play music for my job, that's what I get to do for work, and the backtracking of how the manual labor that they did and the physical challenges that they endured so that I could play music for my job is very heavy and very special and important. So respecting where I've come from is really, really important to me.
And very similarly, I would say my dad and my aunts, my dad's one of 10 kids on his side, and very similarly, my grandparents don't speak English. We're telling the story, but my grandparents don't speak English. My dad's first language is English. But my siblings and I don't speak any Spanish. And it's because when my dad was going to school in California, he would literally be hit with rulers by his teachers for speaking Spanish. And they would be speak English only, speak English only.
It's a very common thing for people. Yeah. I'm not sure how old you are, but very common thing for, my dad has scars on his knuckles from where he would be hit on his hands for speaking Spanish at school.
So I don't speak Spanish, but so I was never able to communicate with my grandparents. Here come the tears.
Oh my God.
So I wasn't able to talk to my grandparents because they didn't speak English. And same thing there's a funny story. The day I was born, my dad wasn't able to be at the hospital the day I was born because my grandfather lost his wallet in the tomato fields. And so my dad was in the tomato fields helping him find the wallet in the tomatoes. So he missed the birth of his first child because that's what you do and that's what you did. So the work, thank you. So the hard work ethic, that's what was taught to me. It was always taught you're going to have to work harder than the person next to you, and don't complain about it, and don't say anything about it. Just know you're going to have to work harder. And so whether that's true or not, for my generation or the generations that come after me, that was how I internalized it. You have to work harder. You have to be better. If you don't, you're going to end up like this. We don't want that. And so it's that hard work ethic from being very, very, very young. And so I think that has played a huge role in where I am today. Is just work hard, work hard. That's what was instilled in me.
Work ethic is everything. And also just coming from Laredo, it's a border town and it's like 98% Hispanic. So we spoke English and Spanish, but even now to this day, I feel like my verb conjugation sometimes is a little off. So then I'll get a little nervous that my Spanish is bad. So then I'll just kind of switch to Spanglish. And that's why I love Selena Quintanilla, because that's what she was, I mean, she spoke English before she spoke Spanish, but people that listen to our music thought that it was the other way around.
Yeah.
But it's just like being Hispanic, sometimes you're not at least I'm Mexican American. Sometimes I feel like I'm not Mexican enough for the Mexicans, and sometimes I feel like I'm not American enough for the Americans. So I'm like, well, where do I fit? Like I'm somewhere in the middle, and I mean, I guess, you know what I mean? But it's like a lot of pressure on both sides. But work ethic definitely is everything. And it's not even, I was just having a conversation with my son yesterday. We were watching that movie, A Million Miles Away. Super good, about the first migrant worker to go into space, become an astronaut. True story.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet.
Oh, it's so good. Jose Hernandez, I think is his name. And it was just incredible, like his work ethic and what he did to get there. And I was like, that resonates with me. And I told my son, even though right now our kids have more privilege, it doesn't matter. Like you have to work twice as hard as a person next to you, and that just goes for everyone. That's the only way you're going to get ahead in life, because as good as you think you are, there's someone that's going to walk in the room tomorrow and be twice as good as you, prettier, smarter, more talented, more, you know what I mean? Like better writer. I mean, there's always going to be someone, you know, better than you. But that's why you have to be the best version of yourself and try super, super hard and just give it your all, you know?
I have positive affirmations are everything.
Yes.
So like I have I don't know what it's called, but like, you know, when you look down at your phone, it's 333 or 222 or 111. If I ever look at my phone and the numbers are matching, I always just tell myself, nobody's going to work harder than me. Nobody's working harder than me. Like in my respective like field or whatever, I would just like every time I see those numbers, it's like repetitive, like no one's working harder than me. So
They can't take that away from you,
they can't
right?
take it away from you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank y'all. Okay, so kind of stemming off that, how did your early life shape your like interests and career paths?
One thing I've noticed too, so I'm bicultural. So my mom is a Korean immigrant. She moved to the United States when she was almost 30. My dad met her when he was stationed in Korea when he was in the Army. And so I feel like as I kind of traverse cultures, because it's the same thing, I'm not Korean enough, I'm not like Mexican enough, I'm not American enough. Like it depends on where I am and who I'm with and like if I'm enough. But like within cultures, I think the more that you have a global lens and a world lens, you'll see that we're more alike than we are different. And so regardless of whether it was Korean culture or Hispanic culture, there's a sense of it takes a village. These cultures are not individualistic, kind of like in America, it's all you pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you take care of you. But there are cultures where it's like ingrained where you help each other. It's a village approach, it takes a village to raise a child. And I feel like that part of being ingrained in me has shaped who I am today. Like every job I've had, I was a coach, I was a teacher, I'm a veteran of the Army. I was a preventive medicine specialist in the Army Reserve, and now I'm a counselor. And so I feel like every career path or job that I've ever done has been around like serving, supporting, because I feel like that's ingrained in our culture, that service. Like it takes a village to raise people, and it takes a village to help people. And I think that's definitely ingrained in my Hispanic culture.
For sure. I mean, a very different experience, but for myself, it was seeing somebody who looked like she could be related to me on television at 8 years old, and that was Selena. The first time I saw her was on primetime television. It was in the nighttime. It was the Tejano Music Awards. It was a black strappy bustier with the red rhinestones on it. My parents are super blue collar. My mom was a secretary. My dad's driven an 18-wheeler for 40 years. I don't have it like music in my like family, but as soon as I saw that, I was like, that's what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I'm going to chase doing that for the rest of my life. So at 8 years old, seeing that, translating, I didn't think I was going to take it so literally and become a Selena tribute band, but like Selena opened the doors for me to be able to do my own music eventually. And like in the 90s, she was the first Mexican American woman I ever saw on television. So that really just kind of changed my life. And I since that moment, I knew I wanted to make music for the rest of my life. And that's all I ever did. It's all I know how to do. It's all I've ever done. So I've told my family and my parents, I wanted to do other things. And when I told them I wanted to play music, they're like, cool, cool, cool. They're very like realists. They're just like, okay, cool. You want to make music? What are you going to do for money? How are you going to make money? And now it's like kind of like a gotcha when I actually make money to play music now. So it took a minute, but that was just the catalyst for changing my whole life for sure.
Oh, Selena. She was everything.
Yeah, she
everything.
was. She still is very much so, yeah.
I mean, that's why she's still so popular. I mean, you all know her songs, right? Even now, right? It's incredible. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but ever since I was really young, this is so random, but people would just tell me their stories. Like adults, I'd be like 7, 8, and they were like, let me tell you. And then they just told me, like, give me the tea. Like, everybody would tell me their stories. And I just thought it was bizarre that everybody felt comfortable telling me their stories. And I thought, well, you know, maybe there is something that they feel comfortable with me. And I was never judgmental. I was always thinking everyone has their reasons for this and that. I never judged them. I always just kind of listened and just kind of like took it in and tried to give the best advice. And then after a while, I was like, you know, I do have a knack for talking to people. Maybe I should make something out of it. And so I was like, what should I do? And I thought, okay, I'll either be a rock cat, or I'll either be a journalist, or I'll be a talk show host. And I think I just went more towards the journalism part of it. But it's taken me everywhere. I mean, I started off in San Angelo, Texas, Lubbock, Texas, Knoxville, Tennessee. I worked in Miami, Florida, which was a really very tough market, very competitive market, Hartford, Connecticut, and then here back in Austin. So it's kind of just opened up so many doors, and I've just lived all over. And it's been interesting. It's been eye-opening. Knoxville was very interesting because I think I was the only Mexican in all of Knoxville. But it's okay. They would say, honey, what are you? And I was like, what do you mean? What? And they were like, honey, what are you? And I'm like, I'm Mexican. My dad is Spanish-Italian. My mom is Mexican-American. So I just, Mexican-American. I'm like, robotic? Like, what do you, not robot, have what? Like, I don't know. What do you want me to say? But yeah.
You just mentioned like you hearing all these like stories when you were a kid. Like, which story has stuck with you like the most?
The ones that really get me are just like the personal stories when you're talking to like a mother who lost a child or something like that. You know, just very personal stories of like just strength, resilience, and like that gets me. And I've even interviewed people, and they were scared to interview me, or they're scared to talk because it was so raw. So I would just hold their hand, and like I would say, look, the camera shot's up to here. I would hold their hand the whole time, and I would squeeze it real tight so they know, like, I'm with you. Like, I'm not here to, I just want to get your story. I want to hear what you have to say. Maybe what you have to say might help the other person, but I'm not here to judge. And I've done that, and I have no problem doing that because it's really, it can be really raw, it can be tough, but we have to just have that that compassion for people. It's so important. Like at the end of the day, yes, I get it. We're like, what camera is it? Does the light look good? But who cares? Like, who cares what all this looks like? It's just important that we connect with people as human beings.
What barriers have y'all overcome while like pursuing your life goals, your careers?
What barriers haven't I pursued? So frequently in my life, I have been the only woman in the room, the only woman of color in the room, the only person, up until 7 years ago, the only person under the age of 30 sitting at a table. And so frequently, we'd be halfway through a meeting or a call or at something, and I'd be like, they only want me here so that they can say that they let me sit here. They don't really want to hear what I have to say. So the moment that I realized that that was happening to me, I'm like, I am not going to be that person. And now when I go into a space like that, I'm going to advocate for myself, and I'm not good. I only know how to be what I am, which is an advocate for myself and for people like me, people whose voices aren't heard like me sometimes. So music industry is very hard in general. It's like a 1 in a million thing. To be a person who is marginalized in any way makes it even harder because it's just a very specific kind of person's world. As soon as I realized that was going to be a challenge for me, I just started talking about it, and I really haven't stopped talking about it ever since. So that's just like one example, but tons of barriers. Like, you're a woman from Texas, you're a blue collar person, like you don't have income, your parents aren't supporting you just to do this thing. You have to work, have to do other things. Then I became a mom, and that became another challenge or barrier. But everything about my life got better as soon as my son was born. So. Andres.
So for me, my field of choice is in education, and so I think the barriers that I just had to education. So I'm the first person in my family to go to college. So my mom, like I said, I introduced her a little bit ago. Her generation, where she's from, school was only free and available till elementary school. So where you guys are forced to go to school till 12th grade, she could go to school till the equivalent of 5th grade and be done. And after that, you have to pay for it. And her family was so poor that only her brothers got to go to school. So her and her sisters didn't get to go to school after elementary school. So my dad has a high school diploma. My mom has a 5th grade education. No clue about college, how to go. No one in my family's ever gone. I didn't have anyone at school. I had great teachers, don't get me wrong, amazing teachers. But I think like my generation and the generation before, your school counselors were like the people that you only went to get schedule changed to. Like that was it. And like I don't think I ever met my school counselor when I was in high school, ever. But I was lucky enough and fortunate enough that I had friends that had parents that went to college. And when they were filling out their college applications, they were like, well, where are you applying? I'm like, I don't know. And like right now, you guys, like I have a son that's a sophomore in college. He applied to 17 schools. I work with seniors all the time that are applying to lots of different schools. I applied to one school because I didn't know better. Like I didn't know about what is your reach, what is your target, what is your safety. It was just like, where are your friends going? And where, I know I don't want to be where I am right now. Where do I go? And most of my friends are going to UT. And I was like, all right, I'll just apply. No one helped me. Back then it was paper, so you write everything on paper. And you send it in, and I got in. And I don't know what would have happened if I didn't, because I had no plan B. And so I didn't have the social capital that you guys have, that my kids have. And so I think that was my barrier. It was like luck, really.
That's so interesting, and now you are
Yeah, and so and then going to UT totally changed my life. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world. But I didn't know, if you had asked me when I was a senior what I was going to do, no clue. So that was my barrier. Just like, what is this world of college? Because no one in my family knew about it.
My barriers were just, again, when I was starting off in the industry, because I've been in it about 23 years, there weren't many Hispanics and nobody really looked like me. So it was just kind of lame, the people that I ended up working, like, I'm sorry, but like even one city, I'm not trying to generalize the city, but when I moved to, well, my first job in San Angelo, nobody would hire me. And you sent out resume tapes, but we didn't have internet back in the day, so you actually sent out tape. I sent out 90, and I got 2 callbacks. And the only reason why I got 1 callback is because I went to UT with the girl, and she remembered I was a good student, and she needed a roommate. So she didn't think I was great. it was like by default. And then so I worked there in San Angelo, but then in Lubbock, it was just tough. Like the bosses would tell me, "You're never going to be an anchor. You're just too ethnic. Like you're not going to be an anchor." And I never let them see me cry. I would cry at home, but I was like, whatever, I'm not gonna let them see me cry in person. So I wouldn't let them see me cry. I wouldn't say anything, but then I'd go home and I'd be like livid. And then I'd allow myself to be mad that night. And the next day I was like, back to work, And I would hear like just derogatory things that some of the other people that I work with would say about me. And it was tough, but again, did not let them get the satisfaction of letting them see me upset about it. But that fuel, that fire has just like really just helped me out, because so many times I thought, they want me to quit. And then the second I started moving up in this industry, and Miami is like a top market, it's extremely competitive. Those same people who are not kind, and I heard them say, racial derogatory things about me. They probably thought I didn't hear, but I heard. They were like, "Congratulations, girl, we're so proud of you." And I'm thinking, and you're still in Lubbock, and I'm going to Miami. So like, this is the reason why, like, you don't need to let anybody's opinion of you like shape or mold you. Like, you create your own opinion of yourself, and as long as you think highly of yourself and you are confident and you're proud of yourself and the things that you do, that's all that matters. Not some fool that says whatever. But I have had news directors tell me that, even in Connecticut, well, I don't think she's the best interviewer. I don't think she's this. And they wouldn't sign me to long contracts because I think they just wanted me to come in to be like a reporter just as a number, and then whenever it was time to leave, they were like, "Okay, bye," you know what I mean? And sometimes I would even feel it from fellow Hispanic anchors that were there, and I'm thinking, what do you mean? So even now to this day, I'm not saying I only mentor Hispanic individuals. I mentor everyone, but it's really important that I'm not like a hater, and that I'm a nurturer. I help people, men, women, whoever needs to help you, help them out. That's how you pay it forward. You don't just, I don't know, I think that also shows that you're secure in yourself and you're not insecure. Sometimes if people are going to talk bad about you, it's because what? They're insecure about themselves. So that's just important to me, that I'm secure now, that of course I'm going to help out the younger girl, because you know what, eventually I won't be in this industry and I want her to do well. You know what I mean? There's room enough for everyone.
We were taught that there's one seat at the table and we need to fight and compete with each other to sit at that table. We are operating in a world where we can buy our own table.
There
we can buy
I like that.
We are in a world where we don't have to like fight each other for a seat at the table. There's space for all of us.
There is.
And if there's not, we can make another table. So it's really important to support each other. So important to support each other.
Okay, so what advice would y'all give to Hispanic students to help them navigate their experience in high school or as they enter life beyond high school?
I just feel like keep pushing. I mean, like set a goal and then, and keep pushing. And if you need help, ask for help. There's nothing wrong with it. I had mentors my whole life are always asking, people for help. I would hope that people have a stronger backbone. When I first started out, I was not the way I am now. I was very quiet, but the reason why is because I knew I didn't know. I knew enough to know that I didn't know anything. I was like clueless. So I would just kind of listen and take it in. But as I got older, I was like, yeah, I do have something to say. I will speak up for myself. And then I became my own advocate. And I think that's super important. But, ask questions, set a goal, and do everything you can to like get the internships or get this or get that to reach that goal. And you can fall down a little bit. It's okay. We've all been there. But it's in those moments where you're like, man, I'm kind of like, I'm tough. Like, I'm really strong. If everything went your way your whole life, I mean, how boring would your life be? Like, you wouldn't learn anything. Like, because everything goes perfect for Amy. You know what I mean? Like, but no, like, I like the fact that things did not go my way a lot. And that I had to, like, just kind of, okay, if this isn't happening, I'll go this way. And I always led with kindness and with empathy. And I think that definitely helps,
So now you're going to get like the teacher counselor answer, of course. Because like if someone were to ask me, what am I going to tell my students? And so my students or any student, I would say, be proud of our culture, be proud of our heritage, join clubs and organizations that are proud of our culture and heritage also, and that appreciate our history, but also with that appreciation of our history, want to take steps to move forward for our future. And then as far as your future, take advantage, like all those things I didn't know, like the National Hispanic College Fund, the National Hispanic Institute. There are so many different funds and institutes out there that their primary goal is to help Hispanic youth become the leaders of tomorrow. And they're out there and they want you. And so like those are the things that I would say. That's my very teacher answer.
There's so many scholarships out there that, I mean, you don't even know. It's free money, but that is important.
There's so many scholarships. There's so many organizations that didn't exist. The Latin Grammys didn't exist when I was a kid. The Latin Billboard Awards, like just so many trade organizations. NALAC, which is the National Association for Latino Arts, and it's a Latino arts nonprofit. There are so many opportunities. I think my advice would be to advocate for each other, support each other. You don't have to be competitive in the way that we were taught we needed to be competitive. Take care of each other, support each other, remember where you came from, remember how hard your families worked for you to be able to go to school and I always tell my son is 5 years old, he's like, to your point, like does not have very many challenges, he's a very privileged boy, but we have to like reset the rules, but I always tell him, Mom works real hard for you to have to be able to drink out of a Stanley Cup. So just things like that, like advocate for each other, remember where you came from, be proud of who you are, be proud of your family, be proud of your parents, and remember that, you have a lot of opportunities right now.
You know what? You brought something up. Don't be ashamed. I'm kind of embarrassed, but when I moved here to college, I was a little ashamed, because, hold on. I just felt like knowing Spanish and being Hispanic was kind of seen as something that not everybody was proud of. And so I remember my sister moved here and she was saying, my name is Nancy Nava. And I'm like, Nancy Nava? Who's that? And I was like, Nava. And I noticed that whenever I went to college at UT, like the only people that would reach out to me to become like for like sororities and different things like that were the Hispanic groups. And I was like, well, what the heck? So it was like Hispanic, what was it? National Association of Hispanic Journalists, then it was Hispanic Business Student Association, but everything was Hispanic. And I was like, well, I didn't understand that because I just saw myself as me. I didn't see myself as Yvonne Mexican American or Yvonne Hispanic. But then after a while, it did bother me, and I was kind of a little ashamed about that because I thought, well, is it something I should be ashamed about? But then I just kind of tapped into that, and I'm like, wait, my parents worked so hard. I've worked so hard. Like, this is something I should embrace. And the more I embrace it, the more I just feel like so proud of it. You know what I mean? And I feel kind of stupid that I was, for a moment, I felt a little bit embarrassed about it because it's like, that's not negative at all. That makes you. That just makes you, 2 languages, that just makes you twice as interesting, you know what I mean? But I just think don't be, and you don't have to be Hispanic, whatever you are, just be proud of yourself, and just embrace it. It's so important.
Yeah. Totally.
And stand up for others.
Yes, please.
Like my youngest son, he's 15 now, but when he was still in a car seat, I can remember him, we were driving through, and then out of the blue, like he's in the back of the car, and I'm literally driving home like from HEB or something, and out of the blue, I just hear him say, I'm not Mexican, you're Mexican, to his brother. And I was like, what is going on? What are y'all talking about back there? And his older brother, I don't know what they're talking about, but the younger one was saying, he's like, Mom, I'm not Mexican. I'm like, Josh, you are Mexican.
Yeah.
Why don't you think you're Mexican? And he's like, no, Hector's Mexican, and Hector's the guy that does our yard.
Oh.
And he made this connotation with like, the Mexicans do our yard. He's like, I'm not Mexican. And like, since he was 3. Like that wasn't taught in our home. That was taught somewhere.
Yeah,
it's
so
taught.
when you hear those things, stand up for those people because it's taught somewhere. We need to break those. We need to break that.
Yeah. Well, I think the tears like symbolize just like it's been a struggle.
Yeah.
But it's like an internal struggle, but then also another struggle. You know.
And I know that we are just 3 adults sitting on this stage, like telling you about our lives, but I didn't realize how important it was, not just to me, but to the rest of my family, to honor them and what they came from and what they do until I was older. So, I mean, that work kind of starts now, but I didn't bother to know, what part of Mexico my grandmother came from till I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
And I asked her about it, and she told me all these things, and now I know, and it's something that I can be so proud of, and I can tell people about her, and like, the history of your family, I know I'm talking to teenagers, but like the history of your family is so special. Speaking of San Angelo and Lubbock, my grandmother was the first, not just Mexican-American woman, first woman to be the mayor of a very small town in West Texas called La Mesa.
Yes.
She is the first woman to ever be the mayor of that town.
Yeah.
25 years ago, in the 4th grade, she was running for mayor. But that's so special. That's so important. And she was the first. Will always be the first woman to run that town forever. And that's so special. And she's so special. And she'll be happy to tell you all about it. But those are important things to remember.
And if you can learn another language, and I have just turned 9 years old, and when he speaks in Spanish, I'm so proud. You know what I mean? I just, and it's so important because that also help you just in life. I said, do you want to make more money when you're older? I'm like, do you want that sports car? You need to make more money. You will make more money if you know a second language. I mean, that's how they would send me to California to go shoot all these stories because I was the only one in the newsroom that knew Spanish. So they sent me to San Diego to go cover a story, and just all these really cool opportunities I got because I knew a second language.
Skills pay the bills.
They do.
I'll throw a question there. What advice would y'all have for non-Hispanics to be supportive and what it looks like to be an ally?
Well, I mean, it's important to listen and acknowledge, that other people have challenges, not Hispanic people. But I think the world that we're living now, we're running into a lot of issues where silence is almost more harmful than not. So if you see something, say something.
Well, if you don't say something, you're saying something.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yes. You don't. So I serve on I'm on the board of directors for 3 nonprofits. I work for a nonprofit at my day job. All 4 organizations are working on what we call an equity statement, and that's saying we acknowledge that the world is changing, so are we, here's how we're doing it. Everyone is doing this work right now. It's become, an important thing to remember is that, and this is like scary language, scary for some people to talk about scary phrasing, but anti-blackness and racism, it took thousands of years for the world to get to this place. It is going to take thousands of years for the world to not be in this place, but I am deeply encouraged to see it happening now. So that's something to be
every
mindful of.
generation, I think, is a little bit more kind of understanding and less ignorant, but it's really important. And think about it, if you asked her a question about where she's from or something, you would learn so much just by asking each other questions. Again, it's not only Hispanic, non-Hispanic, it's just like everybody has a super cool story. I mean, whatever, ethnicity you are, or just your family history, just so many cool things. And sometimes when you ask these questions, you just learn more in general, I think it's fantastic. My husband's Jewish. I'm, here he is, Jewish European, and here I'm Mexican Catholic. Like, we love to mesh it all together, and I think it just makes us more intriguing as individuals.
Yeah, I totally agree.
And like I said earlier, I think you'll find when you do have those conversations, like, be an active listener, really listen, be empathetic when you put yourself in the other person's shoes. And then when you hear stories of other people, you'll genuinely realize that we are all more similar than we are different.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
So like my husband's Norwegian, and his grandmother passed away 2 years ago, and I got her it's called a rosette mold. They in Norway they make these cookies called rosettes, and they're usually at Christmas time. And I remember when I first had them, and they were beautiful, and they're these shaped like snowflakes and things. But anyway, you have a special iron to make this special Christmas cookie, and his grandmother left her rosette irons to me, which is really it melted my heart that I got the rosette irons. But I remember making them, and in my head, I've grown up. I love food and Hispanic, Mexican food and all the things. But and I've always grown up with buñuelos. I've always had them. But they crisp the same, they taste the same, but they didn't look the same. And I remember making these cookies, and I took them to a cookie exchange, and one of my very good friends, Lena, she was like, "You made buñuelos?" And in my head, I was like, "No, they're Norwegian rosettes." I'm like, "But no, they are like buñuelos. They're from Norway to Mexico, this dessert that's almost exactly the same. They taste the same. They smell the same, they just don't look the same." And I think that we learn a lot about each other that way. We may not look the same, but deep down, the inside stuff is the same. And that's really important to consider as you're working with people and talking with people.
No question's a dumb question. They're all good questions.
Here.
Oh, look at you.
Well, I guess, have y'all seen a change, or what change have you seen with my generation in regards to acceptance and inclusivity?
So I have my son is only 5, but I have a 15-year-old nephew, and I feel like there's just so much more in your generation. There's so much more compassion, so much more open-mindedness, so much more. How are you doing? Instead of I got I feel like not the pressure's off, the pressure's just different. That would be my answer. Compassion.
I feel like you all are a lot smarter, and you ask a lot of questions, which I think, and even now with younger folks in our newsroom, I can't just say hey, we're going to do it this way. They're going to be like, but why? But I don't understand, but why? And they always want to know the why. And at first I was like, geez, Louise, just because. But then after a while I was like, no, they want to know why. They're smart. They're like, okay, not just because you said so, but what is the reasoning for it? And then I realized, but that's actually really smart and intuitive to be okay, explain this to me. And now that you explained it, now I understand. And I'm like, okay.
Because that's the way we've always done it.
We were told because I said so. Yeah, because I said so.
Because I said so. Do as I say, not as I do. That doesn't fly with you guys.
No, because y'all are smarter. You just are.
And I think you guys are in this not weird, this is the wrong word. You are in this generation where your parents are probably our generation, where we grew up with the do it because I said so, that's the answer because I said so. But then our generation is also savvy enough to know, but that's not right, but we're going to do it because we were told to. And then y'all's generation is okay, you know the rules, which allows you to bend the rules. You can't just break rules willy-nilly. You know enough that you know what to bend and what to break. And I think that's the difference. We didn't necessarily know what to bend and break because we were still of the you will do as I say, not was, ask any of your parents is probably because I said so, rules the roost.
Yeah.
And I guess we didn't have the wherewithal or that it takes guts to say well, I know that this is what you say I'm going to do, but I also you see things. I think your generation sees things more from multiple lenses, and so you see a different view, and you are confident enough to where you're going to choose the path that you want to take, regardless of what someone told you to take. And I think that's different with, maybe it's because it's being female or culturally, but like, even if I knew the path, it was harder for me to choose a path that was different from what I would be told to do. And I think y'all's generation, you feel more confident in yourself to be able to choose the paths you want to take.
Your level of confidence is admirable, I think. And, but even now with my two sons, like I don't ever say because I said so, because that's not gonna fly. So but I have to explain it, and sometimes it's like with gritted teeth. I'm like, oh gosh, but I have to explain it. And when I explain it, I mean, I never have to raise my voice with my kids. They're like little adults, and I kind of explain it to them, and we just kind of we talk that way, and it's just easier. But back in the day, it's like. I'm like just yelled at, but like that's why like even now I'm such a rule follower,
Yeah. I know if you ask my little brother who's a year younger than me, he'll be like, oh, I just don't want to deal with it. Like, mom says it's because she said so, so I'm just not going to mess with it. But now, like my 15-year-old nephew's like, well, why did you do that? Well, you're doing this. Why can't I do this? You have this, so it's just so different now. But you guys have great resources, and y'all are our future. Y'all are determining our future. You're determining my son's future. So
I feel pretty confident with y'all being our future. I really do.
Well, thank y'all so.
Yay.
Oh.
Delayed.
What can I say? That's all we have for you guys today. Thank you to our panelists for taking the time to join us this morning with CPHS News. I'm Risa Elizondo. Remember to make it a great day or not. The choice is yours.